After a wave of visits this year to the African continent by top U.S. officials, Vice President Kamala Harris steps up next. The White House says this builds on the administration's progress since last year's U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, where President Joe Biden pledged to work to strengthen ties with the continent.
She's the fifth senior-level U.S. official to go to Africa. She will have covered with her colleagues nearly a quarter of the countries in Africa with personal visits just in the last 3 months. So it's an unprecedented amount of attention and diplomacy going towards Africa, more than we've ever seen from a previous U.S. administration. So I think that's the significance of it.
And Harris, the highest-ranking elected woman in U.S. history, will also meet with the continent's only female head of state, Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan. The White House says Harris will speak with the elected leaders of all three countries about their commitment to democracy, a way, Hudson says, that Washington can distinguish itself.
They're also all countries that have a very substantial relationship with China on the trade front, the investment front, and now increasingly on the debt front. So, this is a place where Washington can come and really advocate for the kind of democratic values and try to shore up those values and partnerships with countries that, like many other African countries, are, working with a variety of powers.
Harris is expected to press African nations, many of which abstained from condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine during a United Nations vote, to acknowledge Russia's aggression. VOA asked National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby if the vice president would raise human rights concerns on her trip.
The vice president will, of course, raise human rights concerns everywhere she goes. That's part and parcel of American leadership around the world. We're not afraid. In fact, it's a sign of how much we care about other nations and partnerships that we are able and willing to have those kinds of conversations.
And democracy campaigners say they'd like to see her push democracy as well.
It's important that the high-level attention is brought to this issue, and I think the fact that the vice president and other senior leaders will be deeply involved in these events around the globe and in Zambia is very good, and it's important to show that commitment and that sincerity, and also the sincerity of purpose. And that's where, it links back again to being able to be honest about where we need to address our own shortfalls.
And Harris wraps some family history into this visit. Her maternal grandfather, an Indian diplomat, worked with Zambia's first post-independence leader. Nearly 60 years later, his granddaughter, the most powerful woman to hold office in the U.S., and first South Asian and Black woman to rise to such heights, will meet with Zambia's president. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
To celebrate the life of Tyree Nichols.